I'm Dr. Brian Curtis,
And I am Aiden Rouse.
and we're here to give some post-fight commentary on the Herbivore Round 1. And let's just go right to the top because I'm a homer. Diplodocus crushed it over 70% of the vote, absolutely annihilated Edmontosaurus. And in the battle, I was cheeky and had the Edmontosaurus charging in full speed to do a big shoulder check because that's really, in my mind, all it's got. And the Diplodocus perfectly pivoted and completely crushed the side of the skull of Edmontosaurus within seconds. It was a one-hit knockout. And then Diplodocus ambled away because that's what they do. So clearly, they didn't coexist. We're talking 66 million years to 150 million years apart. But I'd love to get your thoughts on these two animals in general, their offensive and defensive capabilities.
As someone who's actually worked on hadrosaurs in general and sauropods, especially very recently, and looking at the two animals, I mean, of course, the animal that's going to have more mass is going to dominate.
And they were both the same weight. I should tell you, they were both 10 tons.
Ooh. Oh, so they're both 10 tons. So like Diplodocus, okay. But I mean, when you put size and stuff, I mean, that kind of mass is all over the place. So hadrosaurs can be beefy. I mean, they have really robust skeletal structures in areas that a lot of people won't think. If we look at kind of like the front part of the body, especially where all those shoulder muscles will attach in the scapula area, those bones are actually pretty dense. They're pretty thick bone, especially within the humerus, that top part of the humerus. So getting a little shoulder action in there is definitely, one to reckon with. But I mean, once you put that up against an 80 caudal vertebra length tail of Diplodocus, which we know what has been used in some way due to breakage that we see on the very distal caudal vertebrae, which get really small. I mean, you can't do that. It's a whip against basically a standing block of meat. So yeah, I think just from the get-go, I mean, Diplodocus had it in the bag.
Yeah, I truly believe that I was going to have the Edmontosaurus, if he had won, act like a boxing kangaroo, all buff, because they're very strong, and get in there up close, shoulder check, and then just start beating on it with its hooves. But it's pretty defenseless. It can't bite.
Yeah,
it's kind of out of its element. It's
I mean, prey. Yeah, with Diplodocus, I mean, at least you have like incisor like teeth where it can actually bite a chunk off of it if it want to. And of course, with the monsters, what's it going to do? Fight with its little like winter mittens? Like, exactly. You can't do much with it.
It has a strong tail, very tall laterally, could do a really nice hip check as well. But unfortunately for it went up against the king of tails, and it's tail of the tape, it's down and out. Our second fight saw number 2 seed Triceratops square off against number 7 seed Therizinosaurus. And Triceratops won with only 61% of the vote. It was closer than I thought it would be. And I don't know if that's from Jurassic World Dominion's Therizinosaur recent appearance. The fight went down with Triceratops full charging. And the Therizinosaurus with those big arms clashed at the Triceratops head, but its claws clashed off the horns. The Triceratops gored him, rolled right through, threw him off. It was over. Again, a fast end to a fight that you could say was mismatched. What were your thoughts? How do you think of these animals?
So, I mean, Triceratops has that huge occipital condyle on the back of its skull, which gives it that huge range of motion. So, from a very offensive standpoint as well, from a defensive standpoint, in conjunction to that, I mean, that head has lots of mobility. Now, Therizinosaurus, it's big. It has huge claws. But what were those claws most likely used for? They probably weren't, like, serrated or anything like that. They probably weren't, very sharp on the edges. It was only really like the tip end that was likely sharp because of the keratinous sheath that opened over it. So those claws really wouldn't have had any large effect in terms of actually clawing out an animal like that outside of just, to distract it. Now with Triceratops, you have those those keratinous sheaths come out to a point which is pointed directly at you. put that on top of its high range of motion within its skull, then I mean, you're pretty much set for. Therizinosaurus as a bipedal animal has lots of maneuverability, but I just don't think that it could have outdone a very upset, especially a Triceratops that's upset, and because it can move if it really wanted to. So
great capture. The Triceratops, in this case, was weighing almost 8 tons. It outweighed it as well. It was just a mismatch all around. With that, the eyes are set in around the brow horns. If it had won the vote, my thought was I was going to have it come around and do a double jab through the eyes, pierce the brain, and kill it on the spot. And it would have taken big damage, but because you get fully healed in the next round, what does it care? We had number 3 Ankylosaurus squaring off against number 6 Megatherium for the first time we have a mammal in the tournament. And the Ankylosaurus, a big, beefy, armored tank. And in the battle, Ankylosaurus won by 85% of the vote. So I had them, the Megatherium was going to try to maybe do a flip with its big, powerful claws. He had to get in close. Ankylosaurus pulled the Diplodocus, spun around, destroyed the Megatherium's leg. You could hear the bone snap. Megatherium goes down, cracks it on the head. It's over, lickety split. So I know you're a mammal guy. I know you probably picked the mammals to advance. And what a battle if it had advanced and Therizinosaurus advanced, they would have met up. But that's a different what if scenario. What did you think of the battle? What did you think of these two opponents?
As my tally had the big battle of the big claws in the next matchup, if everything went well for me. As someone who's born and raised in an area where megafauna is like Megatherium and its close cousin Herbivore here in the southeast United States. I mean, I really thought that a Megatheridae sloth had a chance there. Something that a lot of people don't take into account is when you're looking at that animal, especially in a bipedal position, it has super long arms. It has super long arms in comparison to its hind limbs. And those long arms have lots of muscle in them. And one thing that us mammals do best is use our arms with a wide range of motion. So, but it just is super unfortunate that wasn't able to pull off the flip that would have ended it all for Ankylosaurus there.
I did have him get a shot in, but his claws clanged off the osteoderms. He was really matched up against the opponent that, on one hand, he was about the only animal that could flip the Ankylosaur, but on the other hand, how do you get through the armor? Ankylosaurus is going to be a beast in this tournament.
So that's interesting because there's even some other species of sloth that actually also have bony little ossicles on their back too. So of course we don't know that Megatherium had it, but it would be kind of fun to theorize that. So yeah, you definitely can't get through the armor, especially with those claws, which, I mean, if we look at the modern day, the Linus two-toed tree sloth, it's all it uses those big claws for is just to help gather in food and such. It really wasn't, it was a big fuzzy cow. It wasn't a you vicious predator. It's a gentle giant.
I like the big fuzzy cow analogy. Now, I've been to the caves in southern Arizona. I mean, in northwestern Arizona, at the Grand Canyon Caverns, where a sloth fell into a cave system and it reached up and clawed deep into the walls. So it had some power. It could have shredded, but those osteoderms in the Ankylosaurus are just thick, and the animal wasn't going to wait around and let you chew through it. So sorry you got lost. I really thought he had a shot. In one of the matchups I was super excited about, I'm like them all though, number 4 Mammoth, aka Mastodon, squared off against number 5 Stegosaurus. And this is a 10-ton Americanum species. This is the beast. Big, big, big teeth, giant, giant power. And the way the battle went down, Stegosaurus won by almost 70% of the vote. So I had the Mastodon charge, Mammoth's full speed. Stegosaur sidestepped, brings that tail around right there, and the spikes went through the side of the skull and penetrated the brain and dropped the mammoth or the mastodon, ending the battle immediately. A one-punch knockout. I personally disagree. In fact, I will tell you, I voted for Mammut to win this because in my logic, an elephant is the smartest guy it's the smartest animal in the tournament. It's got those huge tusks. It has the whole package of power. And I had it going deep. So my bracket's busted.
Yeah. I think people need to start giving some males a chance here. But I mean, I've looked at a variety of different like morphotypes within the entire Mastodon range, going all the way up to the bulls up in the Midwest area, Indiana. And those animals are big. A big bull Mastodon with his head raised high will definitely be a contender for anything that comes across this path. Now, of course, one of the main predators that this animal would have gone up against was us humans, right? We dominated this thing. In fact, colleagues of mine have actually conducted research basically concluding that, yeah, you didn't want to mess with this animal when it was upset. So yeah, I really have my heart in it. And not just because, I'm a mammal guy, but I really felt that like Mastodon had a chance here. Those big tusks, I mean, when maneuvered right, it could cause some serious damage to something. It could knock it out, totally, just throw the animal off its game. And like you said, it's a mammal, and with intelligence and such, it's a very intelligent animal.
And it was up against arguably the dullest of the animals, brain of a walnut versus the brain the size of a small washing machine,
and a highly evolved brain too. I mean, this animal actually lived for quite some time and lived through 2 extinction events, basically going from early Pliocene into the Pleistocene. I mean, this animal fought through it all, and not just that, but diverted quite a bit too. I mean, this animal basically spread itself amongst lots of the southeastern United States. Some reports even saying going to possibly Central America. So yeah, it's kind of it's interesting that we don't. Again, I just feel like mammals should get a little bit more love.
We have number 1 Diplodocus going up against number 5 Stegosaurus. And if you go to Yale, there's an Apatosaurus mounted next to a giant Stegosaurus, and you really get an appreciation of how big Stegosaurus can get. I don't know who's going to. I've picked Diplodocus. I'll just tell you right up front because sauropod guy, but I don't know who's going to win this one. I'm so curious to see how the votes go. Does Diplodocus get to dominate Stegosaurus? Will this be close? We have yet to have a close matchup, so I'm not sure. What are your thoughts?
These animals are weighing the same, right?
No, the Stegosaurus is lighter.
Diplodocus has it. I know people are going to more than likely vote for Stegosaurus because everyone sees Diplodocus as the big prey item in any source of media revolving around any Jurassic, setting in North America ever. Usually it's always the sauropods that get picked on. But I mean, that Diplodocus can get up on its hind limbs and literally stomp this thing to death. Just the force in it, even if the animals weighed the same, just the sheer force of that coming down and crushing the very small head of Stegosaurus, it's crazy to think about. But hey, Stegosaurus has those big thagamizers, and anything can happen.
It's true. Tail versus tail. I'm going to go with Diplodocus, but I think you said anything can happen. The other matchup, I don't know who's going to win this. Triceratops and Ankylosaurus. I think from a popularity standpoint, Triceratops is going to carry it, but oh my goodness, the Ankylosaurus is so low. The Triceratops' primary weaponry doesn't work, and it has the powerful snipping beak, but what's it gonna snip? Ankylosaurus's armor And conversely, the Ankylosaurus tail, it's almost the adage defense wins championships. I could see the Ankylosaurus tail just carrying it all the way through the tourney.
Yeah, unless the Triceratops can pull off the flip, because as we said before, that head has a huge range of motion.
Great.
So if that
and that brow horn is, don't sleep on the brow horn.
No, definitely not. With enough force behind that animal, that animal, a big Triceratops is virtually unstoppable. And this is a pretty real scenario. These two animals lived in the same environment. But I would love to entertain the fact that these animals clashed it out in person, and then one ended up winning over the other.
The bull elephant versus the rhino that occasionally happens at the watering hole, or Cape buffalo versus rhino.
Right. It's that event that not a lot of people think about can happen, but can certainly happen. But I feel like Ankylosaurus has to play its cards right in order to pull off the kind of the kill early, basically. Because if it doesn't shatter the Triceratops legs within the first couple of minutes of it, I think Triceratops has a pretty fair chance.
And I was thinking the Ankylosaur could swing towards the head, but the jugal area of the ceratopsians, I mean, it'll hurt, but it's not going to kill it. If you crack it in the side of the jaw, it's got a shot to keep coming at you. But the Ankylosaurus got the side spikes. It's going to make it dangerous to get nose to try to flip it over. This is a great battle.
And that jugal horn, it's big.
Yeah.
It's actually, a lot of people don't think of how big, the kind of armor that's
Triceratops is called 5 horns because its jugal is so large. Triceratops' jugal isn't that much smaller.
It's this big. It sticks out pretty far out on the skull. I mean, that animal literally has dense cheekbones.
Well, I'm excited. The battles are going to go on tonight. The voting stops tomorrow morning for the Theropod round 1. And so we'll definitely talk to you later this week and get your take on the Theropod round 1. And we're going to launch the 2 battles for this probably on Friday. We'll get Herbivore round 2 going. So thank you, Aiden Rouse, so much for your insights into these animals and the conflicts. I'm Dr. Brian Curtis saying thank you kindly. Adios.
Adios.